Everybody, it's been a wild 24 hours if you're a Raiders fan, and there you have it, the latest breaking news. Right when I was having my evening brewski, about to wind down for the evening, I get hit with some crazy ass freaking Raiders news. Sorry, I'm not going to cuss. Promise not to cuss, but Maxx Crosby has finally chimed in about his future and what he thinks about this Raiders-Ravens debacle, and also gives us a clear declaration as to what he's going to do in 2026. And there you have the quote. We're going to show you the full quote in a second from Maxx Crosby and what he said tonight, actually. This is basically like 2 hours ago when he said this. I'm a Raider. I'm back. Did we ever think when he was leaking stuff to Jay Glazer, leaking stuff saying that he wants out with the Raiders, upset about being pushed on IR, then eventually traded to the Ravens for 2 first-round picks just last week? Did we ever think we would see this happen? It is absolutely crazy. And hey, last night when we broke down the crazy news of the Ravens backing out of the trade, we talked about all the possibilities. We broke down how the value for Maxx Crosby has gone down significantly. And we made the declaration yesterday. When I say we, I'm saying myself and everybody on this channel who chimes in and comments below, man. I listen to everything you guys have to say, the good, the bad, the real bad. It doesn't bother me. I got thick skin. But I feel like this is a community where we take into account all the, facts and stories out there and give our guess as to what's happening next. And I think this is what it came down to, is the Raiders were not going to get the trade value they got with the Baltimore Ravens, 2 first-round picks. Maxx Crosby probably disenchanted with trying to find a new team, seeing that the grass is not always greener in these other organizations, even if they might be organizations that have been more successful than the Raiders over the past few years, like the Baltimore Ravens. They could be sketchy. They could be shady as hell. Have you literally had Crosby in the building with his family and then boom, out of nowhere, dipped out on him. And actually, I'm going to pull up the quote from an NFL insider earlier today, where literally the dude was in the building with his family and kids when they were inquiring about the new player who they just acquired after backing out of the Maxx Crosby deal. And I'm talking about Trey Hendrickson, signed by the Ravens after they backed out of the Maxx Crosby deal. And they claim that they were interested in pairing Maxx Crosby with Trey Hendrickson. I don't buy it at all whatsoever. Clearly, they thought, hey, Hendrickson, nobody's going after this guy after a few days in free agency. He's a great pass rusher, not as great as Maxx Crosby. He's probably like 15% less, right? Which is pretty good. I would give Maxx Crosby an A+ rating, while I'm giving Hendrickson a B+, sometimes an A- rating in his prime. But they looked at this and said, 2 first-round picks and I keep Hendrickson rather than giving up 2 first-round picks and then I have to deal with Crosby and see how that's going to work out with the injury issue and everything like that. Even though I don't think it's a big issue, and I think he'll play this year, and we're going to see him now super motivated with the Las Vegas Raiders. But before we get into what Crosby had to say, him saying that he's a Raider for life today after everything that happened, dude, the GM of the Ravens literally did a press conference today. It was super cringe having to answer to all of this bullshit. Bro was shook the whole time.
What do you kind of say to that?
Let me boost up the audio because it's a little quiet there. But, some of these press conferences are hella quiet. But this guy, he's literally trying to act like, oh, we just backed out of the Crosby because he didn't do a good physical. It's not because we changed our mind, because the free agency market changed and we saw we can get Trey Hendrickson, who we ended up signing literally the day after backing out of the Crosby trade.
I mean, I understand it. I understand it. We live in that age of skepticism and people question, especially people that don't really know me or know the Ravens culture and the Ravens organization. So I understand it. As I said at the beginning, we've got a responsibility. I've got a responsibility to the Ravens, to this community, to our fans, and to Steve Bisciotti to do what we think is best for the club. And that's what we always try to do. Every decision we make is based on this idea: is this the best thing for the Ravens?
That's not what we asked.
Very, very challenging. Again, I understand how people might maybe from afar would feel that way, but nobody's more upset about this than me.
Real quick, let's just the question. I want to hear what the question exactly was. I understand that people should feel that way, but nobody's more upset about it than me, is what DeCosta's saying.
What do you kind of say to that, to speculation?
I mean,
what do you kind of say to that?
So what do you kind of say to that speculation? The idea that people are claiming he had buyer's remorse, which is what we're saying here. And he basically admits it, where he says, I have to do what's best for the Ravens. What's best for the Ravens was backing out of this trade for bullshit reasons.
Upset about this than me. Gutted by it, actually. And so a big regret for me. But we will move on as a football team, and I think there's many opportunities for us to grow as a team, to become a better team, to build a roster, and to be the team that we want to be.
Of course there's better options, bro. You're getting out of this trade that you already agreed to. So all these NFL agents are now running cover for the Baltimore Ravens, trying to act like they didn't just have buyer's remorse, trying to act like they were really just baffled by Crosby's physical, even though we all knew he had a torn meniscus. That's why we're backing out of the trade. Here you have it. As part of the proposed trade for Crosby, the Ravens were prepared to sign him to a revised contract that would have paid him near the top of the pass rusher market. Had that deal gone through, it would have made it hard to sign. It would have made signing Trey Hendrickson very difficult. And you have Maxx Crosby's agent responding to this, calling it fake news that the Ravens were trying to sign Crosby to a top of the market contract. He's saying that was complete BS. Crosby's agent, and they weren't planning on doing that. They weren't planning on really going through with this trade. They really wanted to have it as a emergency option if they couldn't find somebody like Trey Hendrickson on the open market during free agency. Hey, hats off to them. It's completely within the rules technically for them to do this, but it's bullshit, breaking decorum, breaking etiquette that you have with other teams, and it's really pissing a lot of people off. But here you have it, the big enchilada, Crosby, saying that everything happens. This is him literally, what time? 8:21 p.m. Pacific time. I'm about 2 hours late. I'm recording this 2 hours later. Everything happened for a reason. Believe nothing you hear and half of what you see. I'm a Raider. I'm back. Run that shit. And there you have it. Maxx Crosby doing this with the Undertaker tombstone emoji. Any of you guys who watched WWF back in the day, Undertaker, if you're not familiar, kind of a demonic type character, would always reappear on the scene in very intense moments. And the way he would do it would be a surprise to the audience. And it would almost kind of signal like the kiss of death, like a guy who's going to completely end everybody in the ring. So very fitting gif by Crosby, basically saying he's back. Nobody expected it. He's surprising everybody. And he's back with a vengeance, back very pissed off at the NFL for kind of not offering 2 first-round picks for him around the league. I mean, really, the Ravens seem to be doing that. The main reason why some of these other teams are not offering as much as the Ravens after the Ravens have backed out of the trade is because, unfortunately, they've already made their offseason plan at this point. They've already signed other people. Those contracts went into effect about 12 hours ago officially, and they've already allocated their money in cap space where they can't fit Crosby on their books anymore. So it really kind of screwed over Crosby. The Ravens backing out of the trade, giving him less options as to where he wants to go. Screwed over the Raiders, giving them less options to trade to other teams out there. And I think that's why he's back with the vengeance too, is because the Ravens specifically are basically telling Crosby, we don't think you're going to be that good this year. We definitely think your knee's messed up. If their theory is correct, we definitely think your knee's messed up, or you're not going to be that good in a few years. Or even if you're going to go out there and say, okay, they believe he's healthy, they just wanted Trey Hendrickson instead. Well, they're basically saying Hendrickson is worth almost as much as Crosby, and we would rather have Hendrickson instead of Crosby. So it's also a competition between Crosby and Hendrickson there. And I think that's why he's really back with a vengeance, where the Ravens are basically saying you're not that big of an asset, not worth 2 first-round picks, not going to be that big of a game changer. compared to some of these people on the free agency market. So I think that's why he's going to be extra motivated this year, extra pissed off. For Raiders fans and for myself, I know, at least in the YouTube sphere, and the way that I know this is I don't watch everybody, but I see comments. I'm able to scroll through and see comments sometimes. And I have seen people who are upset when I criticize Maxx Crosby because I just believed the whole time that he was trying to force himself off the Raiders, while other people were saying that he was not trying to. Pretty sure it's obviously clear he was trying to force himself off this entire offseason. And I understand that he can't openly say, I want to be traded. But I felt like he was giving Raiders fans false hope when the Jay Glazer reports were brought up to him, the Rossini reports about the fact that he wants out, he's trying to force himself out, he's upset about being shut down. And then he did this whole thing about, oh, don't believe what you hear and unless I say it. He was giving Raiders fans at that moment false hope, basically telling them that Santa Claus is real, when he damn near knew that they were going to find out very soon that Santa Claus was not real, at least in a couple of weeks. So I felt like that was not the way to go about it. I think he should have just declined to answer the questions and moved on. But I say all this to say, now that Maxx Crosby is back, now that he is on the Raiders, and fans who are upset about him forcing himself out, none of that matters now. The Raiders got significantly better throughout this free agency with grabbing Quay Walker at linebacker, grabbing Nakobe Dean at linebacker, finishing the secondary, making a trade for Teron Johnson with the Buffalo Bills, bringing back Eric Stokes, keeping him with Darian Porter in his second year, the third-round pick from last year. The safety room, I believe, is complete. Maybe another free safety to compete with Polamalu, perhaps, but I like Jeremy Chin as well. And I think Polamalu is, I like Polamalu. I think he's pretty good. Got that. You got the offensive line, Tyler Linderbaum. You're bringing back Jackson Powers-Johnson. You grabbed a great wide receiver, Naylor, a guy who's just been trending up. You're bringing back everybody from last year on offense. Plus, you're grabbing Fernando Mendoza with pick 1. And now what happens after that? Kwity Paye, Malcolm Kuntz, good additions on edge, a good baseline, competent play. But now you get Maxx Crosby on top of that. And even though I believe he forced himself out, he has now seen the other side. He has now seen how dark it could be when you're dealing with some of these other owners. He's now seeing how it's really not that fun to test the market. It's kind of shitty as an NFL player. And he's understanding what it's like to have to get to know a new owner. Does he trust Mark Davis more than Steve Bisciotti, the Ravens owner? You've now seen how the Baltimore Ravens run their football team. You now see how you can't trust some of these other teams. And he's probably looking at Mark Davis. He's probably looking at Spytek and Tom Brady. Clearly seems like he had a falling out with Spytek and Tom Brady because they shut him down against his will. Now we're finding out with the medical issue. Maybe it was a good thing they shut him down, right? Maybe it was a good thing. And even though they shut him down, still having troubles on this open market trying to get traded, especially with the Baltimore Ravens. If they're being legitimate, I think they're full of shit. But still, no other teams are offering a couple first-round picks for Crosby. Is it only just because they already allocated their cap? I don't know. I don't think you can 100% blame that. Probably 50-50 to be completely honest. It's a factor, but it's not the only factor. So he's now seeing all that, and he's probably looking at Mark Davis, Tom Brady, John Spytek. He's looking at Raiders fans and thinking, you know what? Maybe it really wasn't that bad. And maybe Mark Davis, after John Gruden was forced out, and that was not Mark Davis's fault from all accounts that we have right now. He was pushing back on that. I personally believe he ultimately caved at the end of the day. Didn't absolutely have to, but was highly pressured by multiple people, obviously, to push out John Gruden. I think he shouldn't have caved, but he ultimately gave. But he's always kind of expressed the fact that he did not want to do that afterwards. Still, at the end of the day, a lot has happened. But outside of that, he signed Josh McDaniels in 2022. He signed Antonio Pierce, who Maxx Crosby pretty much told him to sign. That failed. Then he tried to go with Pete Carroll. Why not? A dude who freaking won a Super Bowl, probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. in his 70s, who cares? That was a complete disaster with the offensive line coach and Chip Kelly listening to Brady at the same time. Carroll and Brady, these guys are kind of clashing here. Now we're going the full Brady Spy Tech show this year. Seems like Mark Davis has tried to get it right. Crosby is upset about the instability, but at the end of the day, the owner has been trying. He has been firing and hiring people. It just hasn't worked out every single time. With Clint Kubiak, I think now's the chance. Now I think there's a ton of optimism for the Raiders. And I think with Maxx back, this is going to be one of the craziest stories I've seen in the NFL. Dude wanted to be traded, tried to force himself out, gets traded, they renege on the trade, and then I feel like he has a more positive attitude towards the organization that he tried to get traded from. At the same time, you have the number 1 pick in Mendoza, a team that's getting retooled, and we haven't even talked about Clint Kubiak, one of the hottest offensive minds in the entire NFL. It's going to be a fun season, man. Like and subscribe for more content from me and more videos.